Now, don't you think the skin drama can ever end? That's right, it hasn't even been 2 weeks and the Coven skin line is facing more friction. So, for those of you who missed it, the last time we talked about this topic, you might have learned about the great war of the Nami mains and the Syndra mains. Now, what was the cause of that conflict? People were just arguing about who's gonna get the next legendary skin. So, when it was revealed that Nami was the chosen one, Syndra mains had fallen into a state of depression for an obvious reason. Not only did it suck that Syndra didn't get a legendary skin yet again, but Syndra also got a Coven skin that is not a legendary. Meaning that Syndra will never ever get a legendary skin that is part of that universe. Which is something the Syndra mains wanted a lot. But you see, while that is exactly where everyone thought the drama would end, that is not what actually happened. And in the shadows of war, as Nami mains rejoiced, Syndra mains started its own civil battle. But what's worse, a new challenger joined the arena. And it is by far the scariest of them all. It's those whose name I can't even say. But first, let's start at the beginning. You see, after PBE came up and all the skins were revealed, some people rejoiced, some got horny, somehow, and others got sad. But as I mentioned, from all the sad ones, Syndra mains got it the worst. But on top of their great depression, their entire community also divided in half. One half of the people like the skin and appreciate it for what it is, but the other half of Syndra mains hates it. And in their head, it is the amalgamation of everything they hate about this entire Coven situation. And to be honest, I kinda understand why people don't like it. When it comes to the splash art, I think that's totally fine. I always thought that complaining about splash art was stupid. Sure, sometimes things just look weird or upsetting, but at the end of the day, you are only gonna see this art on screen for like 2 seconds before you get into the game. Unless you plan to set this as the background for your desktop, who cares? I mean, you wanna talk about what splash art used to look like? They just changed the hue of the champion, and they didn't even crop them out properly. The important part is what the skin actually looks like in-game. And unfortunately, I would agree that the splash art actually does look better than the model in-game. The base model itself is kinda a blur of all kinds of colors. There is the black and white and the dark green from the feathers and the dark blue from the skirt. The pattern is also woven throughout the entire dress, and then on top of that you have the reddish purplish spells. The orbs are a mass of raven wings, which, sure, it looks like something from a horror, but it doesn't look as impressive compared to what people thought they would get. Because this skin is still a twist on the original Coven skins, where everything is supposed to be very demonic. And even though all of this does have demonic vibes, it doesn't feel fully united. I mean, if you wanna tie everything into feathers, then you really have to show it during the spell effects too. And there you only get these tiny birds who appear for like a fraction of a second. So overall, it doesn't really look like it is a part of a demonic skin line. This is more of a pigeon daycare Syndra. So sure, I understand where the complaints come from. And all you need to do to find these is to scroll down below into the comment section of the Skin Spotlight. Riot never fails to disappoint us. This is the most anticipated Coven skin since forever. And they didn't even try. That quality, that VFX, that outfit. I actually wish that Syndra didn't get a skin at all this year. Really, Riot? After Spirit Blossom and Star Guardian Prestige, you are giving us this shit? I'm actually trying to enjoy this skin because this is my main champion and I want to buy it. However, I am not impressed. This could have been so much better. See, I am not a Syndra main, so who cares about my opinion? But if you ask me, I would unite her dress, because right now the dress is a mess of colors. And I would actually turn her orbs demonic, like runes, blood sacrifices, demonic eyes, you go for it. I mean, if Nami can have a sacrificial altar, I think it's fine if you go a little bit darker with Syndra. The key aspect would be giving her the vibrant crimson runes, similar to what Nami has around her. not barely visible pigeon wings. You tie it all together and it's gonna be fine, right? Nah, I'm being too constructive. In order to be a Syndra main, I have to let my rage loose a little bit. And there is no better way to do it than spewing hatred at real specific people. That's right, some of the members of the Syndra mains community went on their own manic episode. And they started messaging writers and calling them names. So much so that Brightmoon, the executive producer of League of Legends, came out with a statement. Hey, for folks who are giving us feedback on Coven Syndra, we hear you. Please know that just because we haven't responded yet doesn't mean we aren't paying attention. Also, please be cool with the team. Calling us names and so on doesn't help things move any faster and it can be distracting. You see, at first it may seem like they just had a few bad apples with inappropriate feedback. But in order for something like this to happen, in order for an executive producer to come out and to put out a statement defending his team, things had to be a bit more serious than you probably realize. What I imagine happened is that one of the people who was actually working on these skins went to Brightmoon and told him, hey, I'm actually getting depressed from this. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. At least, that's what I imagine would be the reason for Brightmoon to mention that they are getting distracted. Someone at the office actually had to get hit hard. So it feels like people are being so stupid with their feedback that they are draining the individual writer's motivation. Thankfully, no death threats were confirmed. Yet. But Syndra mains are certainly not presenting themselves well. Also, what's absolutely stupid about this situation is that this incident happened only about a week ago. But some of these community members have been going crazy for a while now. In fact, the mods of Syndra mains actually tried to keep people calm. And they even put out their official apology. Only for this to happen a few weeks later. So I guess some people just can't be contained. Anyway, after that, a few days later, Riot revealed a post where they released all the dates when all the Coven skins are gonna come out. Which is where we learned that unlike all the other Coven skins, Syndra will arrive a patch after everyone else. Which makes it seem like maybe Riot is delaying Syndra's skin so they can give it some changes. Which should make some Syndra mains hopeful, but at the same time, one should ask the question, was it really worth it? You see, in the history of League of Legends, Riot has only ever delayed a skin twice. The first time it happened with Firelight Echo, who was delayed so they could give him a custom home guard animation, but even that delay was too much to give him a proper toggle so he can put on his mask. So even after all of that, people still didn't get the one feature they really wanted to have on that skin. The second time a delay happened was with the Star Guardian Seraphine skin. Actually, it was Ocean Song Seraphine, please don't hit me. There were some inconsistencies with the abilities, most of which were fixed. But also, there was a lot of people who were complaining about her hair. So, Riot delayed her, they changed her hair, and people kept complaining, so they just reversed all the changes and they shipped her. So again, not too much actually changed. Which is why I am scared about this Syndra delay. I think people expect Riot to give them back a totally different skin. Even though it is pretty obvious that is not going to happen. So you know what? I'll be back with a follow-up to see what actually happened. Because we all know that one is not gonna go down without a drama. But you see, this is not where the current drama ends. Because out of nowhere, we got a Wild Rift update. And if there is something Wild Rift is amazing at, it is giving high-definition models to old champions from League of Legends and making League players jealous. Now, in case you don't know, Wild Rift has a bit of a twist of its own that's going on right now. If you snoop around social media, you might realize that a lot of people from the Wild Rift team are getting fired. Okay, I'm being a little bit too dramatic. What's happening is that while Wild Rift is doing okay in the West, it is doing really well in the East. But despite that, the Riot offices related to Wild Rift are still in LA. So Riot made the smart decision to move their Wild Rift offices into their Shanghai offices, so that they are much closer to their core audience. Which unfortunately means that a lot of the people who are working on Wild Rift in the West had to be let go. Now that's a bit of a background lore for you, it's not gonna be too important for this video. What is important is that Wild Rift got its 4.4 update, where they revealed some new content. Of course we got some new champions coming to Wild Rift, which means that we also got some new HD models for Sivir, as well as Fiddlesticks, who looks absolutely amazing. And next, still related to our rebellious group, at the end of the update, it was teased that at the beginning of 2024, Wild Rift will also get a champion who is very close to Meddler, which is supposed to tease that Syndra is coming into Wild Rift at the beginning of 2024 because Meddler is the one who designed her. The thing is, this teasing didn't last very long because somehow Wild Rift patched in the icon and the emote for the new Syndra, which also showed us that in Wild Rift she is gonna have an updated model. Honestly, I don't wanna know how the Syndra mains are gonna react to that one. So instead, let's move on into the other part that always keeps everyone calm. New skins being announced for Wild Rift. It always starts peacefully with some good old classics, such as Zombie Brand, Spirit Blossom Ahri, or Ashen Knight Pantheon. That's a one I didn't expect. But then, everything goes dark when Wild Rift starts announcing its exclusive skins. And this is the moment the fires of war summoned a fearful nation. One that previously got a skin ported over from Wild Rift. And they got a delay after their feedback. Of course, I am referring to the Seraphine mains. Because over in Wild Rift, it was announced that Seraphine is getting a brand new legendary skin that is exclusive to Wild Rift called Crystal Rose Seraphine, which is a skin that floated around as a fan concept for months. And that's after Seraphine already got not one, but two exclusive skins in Wild Rift. Meaning that this would be the third time PC players are missing out on a skin. So of course, some Reddit posts very quickly emerged. Why play Seraphine when you can play Mordekaiser? No wait, that's the wrong one. That's the one. OMG, it's perfect! Oh god, I actually really like it. I'm fuming. Guys, try to ask, but peacefully. Seraphine mains on PC, rise up! No harassing, bestie, we'll request this peacefully. Let's not harass devs again. Yeah, I know, lol. I'm just kidding, cause Crystal Rose Sarah looks really good. But we still can ask them politely. Then the devs should not be keeping them exclusive. How many times are we gonna hate this BS? Okay, so besides the obvious outliers, are these the same Seraphine mains I remember from the Star Guardian event? Because so far it seems like these are just nice, polite talks about them requesting this skin for League PC. No biting, no scratching, just politeness. I'm very impressed. Is it because their threats worked in the past and now they realized how awful it was? And yeah, I do have to say, this skin is awesome. I do believe this would be a worthy consideration of a port into League PC. So you know what, Seraphine mains? Keep it up. I believe in you. You know there is a dark twist coming. But this one does not come from the Seraphine mains. Somehow they remain very civil about it. No, the warmongers come from a different camp. A challenger hated by many because of their gameplay mechanics, and liked by some. You see, right after Crystal Rose Seraphine, the update showed us Crystal Rose Jace, which nobody is really talking about. I think it's because people are waiting for shirtless Arcane Jace. No, it's the one after that. Crystal Rose Gwen. And just like that, like a kraken from the depths, hearing the cries of success coming from Syndra's complaints, witnessing the delay happening in action, Gwen mains Rose. Now you see, this skin is honestly pretty good. The theme fits, the dress is cool, the weapon is great. So it would be enough to get some mains upset with the pure exclusivity. But that was just the spark. The flames truly spread when the prestige version was revealed too. And I have to say, this one looks goofy AF. Like, yeah, it's a good one. I just don't think I'm gonna lose my mind over it. But well, I'm not a Gwen main, which is something I very quickly realized after witnessing their raw reaction. Please stop taunting us, Riot! Seriously? I wanna cry. This is so unfair. I know, right? It's always Gwen and Seraphine. Day by day, skin by skin, my hatred toward Wild Rift grows more and more. 6R on Riot headquarters. I'd like to find the writer who thought half of Gwen's skins would be Wild Rift exclusives and personally visit him at home. As a Wild Rift player, this is a divine heaven. Also got Mythmaker. Must be f***ing nice. Am I supposed to myself in front of the headquarters for them to port the goddamn skin onto PC? I know I'm a lot about the cosmetics, but this is too much. It's not funny, seriously. At this point, the threats became a battlefield. Ridden with the sound of tears hitting the mud and the snipping of scissors in the air. The warmongers were ready to wage war on Riot HQ to get their favorite skin in League PC. What's worse, they realized that harassing rioters worked in the past. It worked for Star Guardian Seraphine and now it worked for Syndra. And so they were dedicated on doing it too. Follow my lead! Guys, it's time to spam Riot support with requests for Gwen. This exclusive skin policy must change and we have to be the ones to draw attention to it. Help me and let's make Riot know their treatment of our champion cannot continue in this way. Remember the times when Riot just made a funny skin because it was funny? Dear Riot, as you must know, Gwen keeps receiving Wild Rift and Legends of Runeterra exclusive skins constantly. Yeah, I'm sure we can compare the production of League of Legends and Legends of Runeterra. Yeah, I think we can do that. Many of us Gwen mains feel this recent venture into Crystal Rose Gwen being another Wild Rift exclusive is a spit in the face, and would like to ask clarification for why Gwen gets so few skins in her PC version. So, I'm actually gonna do it. Since you are so desperate for a clarification, I'm gonna tell you how Wild Rift works so you can finally sit down on your ass. In case you live under a bridge like some of these people do, Wild Rift and League of Legends are two totally separate games. They may be owned by the same company, but they are two totally different games with totally different game engines with two totally different player bases. This is the first fact that is often overlooked. Because the balancing is so different too. While some champions might be extremely popular in League of Legends, they are not as popular in Wild Rift. And if you reverse it, some champions in Wild Rift would be the equivalent to Lux in League of Legends. And because they are so popular, they would obviously have more skins there. Which is also why a skin for Seraphine in Wild Rift will have 10 times the reach of a skin for Seraphine in League of Legends. And these differences might be so massive, it is simply not worth trying to port the skin over from Wild Rift. And instead, it would be far more beneficial for everyone if they just made up a new skin from scratch for a different champion. Of course, it sucks when some champions get a new skin every other patch and others get a new skin every other year, but that is simply how skins work in every game ever. Most popular characters will always get more skins because by doing this you are technically serving your widest audience. Of course, you just mustn't forget about the forgotten champions too. Yeah. But you see, these differences in the player bases are just one fact that people are overlooking. The other, far more important part is that people cannot comprehend that these are two different games made by two different studios which are now halfway across the entire world apart, with the two different games also having two different engines. As an example, League of Legends has its own custom engine, but Wild Rift runs on a heavily modified version of Unity, which looking back was not the smartest decision. The point is, these different engines handle models and animations differently. Meaning that while one engine is using skeletal-driven animations, the other one may be using morph targets, which are two kinds of animations that don't translate into one another. So since Wild Rift may have morph targets, those animations simply wouldn't exist in League of Legends. Meaning that if League wants to port over any of those animations, they essentially have to recreate them from scratch. And at that point, you are getting into the territory of just making a new skin from scratch. That's the simplest version to explain why porting the skins over is so difficult. It's because you are not really porting over the entire champion. There is a lot that essentially has to be rebuilt again for both of the games. Which is also why, when Seraphine was ported over, some parts of her skin were just missing. In fact, this is what most of the feedback was back then. Like, do people really think that all games are just magically connected? No wonder some people thought NFTs would be the future of gaming. And so, this is how Gwen mains ended up. Consumed by rage, spamming ride tickets. But then, like the knights in shiny armor, the besties descended. First, the Seraphine mains arrived. Guys, this is from a Sera main. If you guys truly want this skin, or the Mythmaker, start moving your butt, because we are going to get our Sera. Of course, do it with respect and zero hate. And then, the Syndra mains followed up. After all the threats, they realized they didn't want to end up like them. They didn't want to fuel hatred aimed at human beings. And so, all leaks without evidence were banned, so that Syndra mains could no longer be consumed by their own made-up expectations. Now they would lead the charge in a world better for all besties. But this is not where this story ends. Because while the skin war rages on, we are still waiting for an update, such as what is going to happen to Coven Syndra. But also, this entire time, stalking in the shadows, there has been one more apex predator. One that's been waging a war all of its own. Separated from all the other besties, but bound to her own boyfriend. It is the Xayah mains who have been clowned on. It is not just about Coven Syndra or redeemed Xayah and Rakan. It is about the future of all League skins. What we do right now matters. Riot continuously brushing aside our feedback and giving us poor quality skins will continue to happen if we don't let it be known that we won't accept it. We were promised transparency and more communication, but it's clear that they are getting too comfortable again. So my question is, are we really stopping the spamming because of fear people might send death threats? It just feels so stupid because Xayah and Rakan community have clearly all expressed that they wouldn't do that and to spam and be annoying. But death threats were never part of the equation. We are also way different from Seraphine and Syndra mains, and to be quite frank, I don't think most people have the balls to send death threats. So I guess you guys have fun with your peaceful protests that will get you nowhere and ignored in the sake of keeping a good reputation. Do you think League of Legends is the only game that has these kinds of psychos?